What's up everyone, I'm Jesse, or Game Over Jesse as y'all may know me, and today I have Macintyre Productions and NintendoBOX here with me to talk about a few different topics including Nintendo, Zelda, E3, and more. So, let's get started. The first thing I want to discuss is Nintendo. They've been more lenient than ever lately with letting third parties use their characters. We've seen a few different Zelda games made by Capcom, Grezzo, and now Tecmo with Hyrule Warriors. We've seen Bowser and Donkey Kong appear in Skylanders, we have Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, Bandai Namco created Pokken Tournament, and there's rumors that they're going to be working on the next Super Smash Bros. For the NX. And let's not forget about Nintendo giving access to all of their franchises to DNA to produce mobile games. So what are your thoughts on this, and who would you like to see produce their own game with the Nintendo franchise?
I would like Nintendo to do. I'm not really sure whether or not they will do it. Personally, they have been really cozying up with Platinum Games. And I definitely like to see what Platinum Games has to offer, since they have been known to do a lot of pretty good games in the past. I'd like to do some sort of collaboration with them. I know they're kind of doing that with Star Fox Zero. I'd like to see that, and also with Retro. I believe Maka already gave a statement saying that he would like Retro to bring its own IP, which I think is a phenomenal idea. Maybe there could be some sort of thing done with Nintendo on that end. But other than that, I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, like Andy said, I have definitely said before on multiple occasions, I'd love Retro to be given that freedom to create its own IP. And I would also, like Andy, love them to carry on this relationship they have going with Platinum, because I think that it can only be a good thing, to be honest. Platinum make these games that get that critical acclaim. You know, their games might not sell a lot, but they make the games which get a lot of recognition, and Nintendo do that anyway, but Platinum often offers something a bit different to that. So I'd love to see more Platinum games. I'd love to see a Platinum game or two on the NX as well, and I think that's something we could definitely see. I'm not sure what it would be, but I think it could definitely be really cool. My dream game of a collaboration would be a Kingdom Hearts kind of game with Nintendo characters instead of Disney characters. Now that's completely out there and it's never happening, so that's just what I would like in an ideal world. But I definitely think that if Nintendo and Square do improve the relationship even a bit more, because things haven't always been great with Nintendo and Square, things have been a bit sour in the past, although I don't think they're particularly bad now. I think that we could be seeing maybe a Super Mario RPG 2, which would it would please people a lot, and that obviously depends a lot on whether the next system will be very popular and how much money Nintendo are willing to pay whoever they partner with to do these games, because that matters a lot too. But I think that third-party partnerships are things that are awesome, and there's something that I really like that Nintendo are doing recently, actually. I think that Pokken Tournament is awesome. That is one of the games I'm really awaiting to come to a Nintendo system. Now, whether it comes to the Wii U or the NX, I'm not quite sure at this point. I thought there was going to be Wii U, and that was inevitable, but now maybe possibly NX, with how long it's going to take to port over and, you know, give that time to have an announcement and market it properly. But I think it's definitely a big game that will be great, and I'd like to see them do more with Koei Tecmo as well. I think that the Warriors series translated really well over to Zelda, and I'd like to see a continuation of that. Maybe possibly a Pokemon Warriors, some Poke Warriors. That would be really cool. I'd like to see what they'd be able to do with that. That kind of fits with the whole emphatic nature of the Warriors series and the Pokemon series alike, so maybe that as well. But beyond that, I don't know. I'd be just shooting in the dark at that point.
Yeah, something I would love is for Nintendo and Square Enix to take the Kingdom Hearts approach to a Nintendo game and incorporate the amiibo. Think of a Kingdom Hearts style game that played more like Zelda with dungeons and an open world, but managed to intelligently incorporate all of the same Smash Bros. Characters. Since we're on the subject of crossovers, what are some third-party characters you would like to see included in Smash Bros.? Whether it's a port of Smash 4 with new characters for the NX or an all-new game for the system. We've seen several third-party characters introduced already in the most recent game, the craziest of which being Ryu and Cloud.
I was personally quite against Ryu being in Smash Bros, although I bought it because I'm a massive hypocritical sucker, so I'm part of the problem with that. But I thought that it was a bit weird that Ryu got in. It didn't really fit in with the comments Sakurai said in the past about fighting characters wouldn't be very interesting in Smash Bros. They've had a moveset which they'd have to stick to, so it wouldn't be great. And also Capcom have got a lot of representation to say that they don't give Nintendo that much support, to be honest, beyond Monster Hunter. So I thought that didn't really make much sense, especially promoting a PlayStation 4 exclusive. So I didn't think that makes too much sense, but I think that third-party inclusions in Super Smash Bros. Generally is a great idea. And while there shouldn't be too many in there, I would really love some. So Sora I'd absolutely love, just for the selfish reason that I really like Kingdom Hearts. So I'd like his inclusion, and also his moveset could be really good. Now a lot of people would say, you know, Sora is more linked to Sony with his mainline games up until this point being PlayStation exclusives. And yeah, that's very true, but equally he's had more or equal games, I believe, or the Kingdom Hearts franchise has had more or equal games on Nintendo systems than Sony systems, so while out there, and it's probably not going to happen, I'd really like that. Another is, I'd like to see Shovel Knight or Shantae in there to, you know, really show that Nintendo supports indies. I think indies are a huge thing, not only for Nintendo going forward, but also for gaming, you know, as a whole. I think that indies can be one of the main advantages to owning a gaming system and being part of this community. And you see a lot of great ideas, and Shantae has been a mainstay on Nintendo systems for years now, ever since the late era of the Game Boy Color. And also, Shovel Knight was originally a Nintendo exclusive, and they've shown a lot of support to Nintendo as well. So I think that's definitely something that we should be seeing, to be honest. Beyond that, I wouldn't really know. I'd like to possibly see Simon Belmont in, or at least one of the Belmont family in Super Smash Bros. As well. Although that's less likely with the state of Konami right now, because Castlevania was a pretty big series for Nintendo back in the day as well. And yeah, they're the characters really that I'd like to see included in Super Smash Bros. As far as third party goes.
Maka pretty much just took all the words from my mouth. I would love to say, I would love to see Shantae and Shovel Knight go in there as well. They're phenomenal video game characters. I'm really getting to the Shantae series right now, so I would definitely like to see her along with Shovel Knight to be in Smash Brothers as well.
What are some remakes you would like to see Nintendo work on and bring to the NX to help boost sales? Personally, I would like to see Super Mario Sunshine, Ocarina of Time HD with Zelda Wii U's engine, but rebuilt from the ground up instead of just slightly upgraded like the 3DS version, and Skyward Sword HD brought over.
Yeah, I would like to see. I'm probably going to get a bunch of weird looks from the other people in the Metroid community, but I would love to see Metroid Prime 2 Echoes being remade in full HD. I know that's kind of considered like the black sheep of the Metroid Prime series, but Prime 2 Echoes is actually my personal favorite, being that I believe it's the darkest Metroid game in the entire series. We see zombies, the Federation troopers, you speak to dead Luminoth people, and really the art direction Metroid Prime 2 I think is the best. And I fully think if it got a full HD remaster of pretty much all the art direction, everything, the music included, it'll be one of the darkest Nintendo games ever, really. And of course, there's the whole Dark World and Light World thing going on there. And I also think it's one of the hardest, it's definitely the hardest Prime game in the trilogy. I think it's also one of the hardest Metroid games in general. So I would definitely like to see Metroid Prime 2 Echoes get a full HD remake. Yeah.
Yeah, I would really like to see that Super Mario Sunshine HD that you were talking about. I think they would definitely be better on the Wii U or the NX if the NX is a HD system, which you'd hope at this point it would be, and rather than it being on the 3DS, because I think that game would just look stunning in HD. Very much the same way that Wind Waker HD is possibly the most beautiful game I've ever seen. It's just phenomenal how good that game looks, and that was the one that would have been my big mention, because I would have loved to seen it, and we got it, which on its own made the Wii U a must-buy for me, because that game is absolutely astonishing. And I think that Sunshine could do with that. Equally, I think Andy's point of Metroid Prime 2 Echoes in HD would be great, but I would also like to just extend that, while it's somewhat unrealistic, to the whole Metroid Prime series. I think that would be fantastic. That would be so good to get the whole series on one disc, or maybe you'd have to put it on a couple or a few. That's totally fine by me. Just one package with all 3 games in a HD remaster. And that's why, to me, I think it's a bit of a shame that they made the Metroid Prime collection on the Wii, as opposed to waiting it out and putting it on a HD system. I'd really have loved to see that. Another game I'd probably love to see a re-release of is Eternal Darkness, because that's a game that's really interesting. I really like the idea of that mechanic where it makes you feel like the game is actually glitching out and the game's broken, whereas it isn't, and it's just playing tricks on you, and that's its way to freak you out. I think that's a really cool concept, and I know that Shadow of the Eternal's spiritual successor, the guy who used to run Silicon Knights, is doing, has it's encountered a lot of development problems, and it's going through development hell, so we probably won't be seeing that anytime soon. But a HD re-release, as that is owned by Nintendo, and they just don't seem to do much with that brand of Eternal Darkness, would be really cool, and it would offer something different, because up until the release of Fatal Frame in the West, later on this year, the Wii U doesn't actually have anything to pull in that crowd that really likes survival horror, maybe apart from Resident Evil Revelations, but of course you can get that on pretty much every other system now. So they're the games that I'd definitely love to see remastered in HD, possibly as well F-Zero GX to please those F-Zero fans, and I'd just like to experience that game, because I know it's fairly rare now.
Bringing this back to the previous topic, I would love to see a weird open-world Mario Kart game where they brought in influences from Diddy Kong Racing.
I think potentially that could be really cool. Yeah. I think all those ideas are pretty solid ones. I know a lot of people would like to see Diddy Kong Racing re-released, at least. I think there is a problem there with Rare owning everything but Diddy Kong. But you know, Nintendo could get around that. They could replace the characters, like that rumor was that it's just the lesser known characters from Nintendo, so that's definitely a possibility. And while it may stray a bit close to Mario Kart, I think it would definitely be cool to get a bit of variation on there. And you never know, it might be, or at least a new game might be what Retro are working on, so we'll see.
Moving on to the next topic, the 3DS is a huge success, but it's coming to the end of its life cycle, and the Wii U has been a huge failure ever since the beginning. We're starting to see Nintendo swallow their pride and release their games on cell phones, something they were against just a few years ago. So if the NX turns out to be a failure as well, do you see Nintendo pulling a Sega and going third party, or only making mobile games, instead of once again investing in a system that may end up being yet another failure?
Well, really, if anything else, the console for the Wii U has always been bad, but the handhelds have always sold phenomenally. Really, I find it more likely, if anything, if, let's say, worst case scenario, the NX is a, let's say, failure, then they will just revert to the handhelds, because their handhelds are widely successful. They make a lot of money. And Amiibos, for example, they also make a lot of money as well. So if worst case scenario, I would definitely see Nintendo just going full on handheld.
Personally, I think that the handheld market's a bit of a weird one at this point, with mobile gaming being such a hit. You know, the 3DS is selling really well, and it's what is keeping Nintendo in a positive light at the moment. Of course, they've got a lot of money saved up, but the 3DS is the thing that has been, you know, making people think that Nintendo maybe aren't, you know, screwing up to the mainstream, their consoles, all that much, because it's sold, what, like 53 million now. But if you look at that in comparison to the DS, that's huge downturn, because the DS was phenomenal. It was almost maybe 150 million units sold in its lifetime, which is crazy. So I think maybe we won't see them going into handhelds unless that fusion system works out. I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but I think that we may, if the NX fails, see them, you know, kind of put their tail between their legs and just swallow their pride, go third party, which to me would be a bit of a disaster, because it's the big gaming great, it's the big gaming giant who brought gaming back from the dead, and it will have been reduced into nothing. And I think that we are risking Nintendo then not bringing out the same quality games if they don't bring them out on their system. Because I know that when Sega went to being third party, a lot of people back then thought that they were going to be this juggernaut, this third party juggernaut who was going to make so many great games, and they were going to release them on their, you know, multi-platform. It was going to be fantastic. But it didn't turn out to be that way, because without their consoles to, you know, make the games for, they just weren't the same company. Now, granted, Nintendo and Sega aren't the same. Nintendo makes some stupid decisions every now and then, and it is bad at certain points, but they don't make stupid decisions like Sega made stupid decisions. You know, they aren't going to dwindle down into the mess that Sega are at the moment. And I think that while they won't be in that much of a mess, potentially Nintendo going third party would be a shame. But I think, like you said, Jesse, they would have to swallow their pride if they did go third party. And I think the bigger thing would be they'd have to really swallow their pride if they went mobile only. I don't think that's anything we'll be looking at, to be honest.
One outcome that I could potentially see is they either partner with Microsoft or Sony to exclusively release on their console. Think about it. Obviously you want to put your games on as many systems as possible to sell as much as possible. But with a partnership like this, you would eventually drive the other company out of business, giving you a chance to come back and start your own console once again. For instance, if you go into a GameStop or another video game store and see Mario, Zelda, Smash Bros, Metroid, Mario Kart, and all the other Nintendo games on the same console that plays Uncharted, The Last of Us, God of War, and all the other first-party PlayStation games, as well as all the third-party games like Call of Duty, Final Fantasy, Assassin's Creed, and more, it would be a no-brainer to pick that system over the other.
I don't personally see that happening, to be honest, because Nintendo... What do you say, Andy?
I think we're having some lag here. Sorry. Like, first off, Nintendo had turned up a profit this year, and actually the only gaming company aside from Microsoft and Sony, they're not turning profits. For example, Microsoft doesn't want Xbox anymore, and Sony's going bankrupt at the moment. Really, Nintendo, I could honestly imagine them being much more successful in the future. Right now, they're in a depressionary period when it comes to finances, and people really like this whole over speculation. It's kind of I don't necessarily want to commit to it. Really, Nintendo obviously made a poor performance at this year's E3, but I honestly wouldn't do that as the sole determining factor and when determining whether Nintendo is going to succeed or not in financial terms. Comparing them to let's say Sega is another thing altogether, since Sega was just weird, really. So really, what I can imagine Nintendo for the future, let's say if they didn't turn out let's say they decided not to be a video game developer anymore and decided to just do merchandise, that's kind of an odd thing to do because they're actually turning out profits right now. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely be seeing if they were to go third party, which is a prospect that we shouldn't be talking about quite yet because I don't think that they're in that bad of a situation. And hopefully they're never going to get to that point. But if they were hypothetically to get to that point, I would see them going multi-platform. But if they were to actually partner up with a company, though they are Western, I could see them probably partnering up more likely with Microsoft. Because Nintendo and Sony, as far as PlayStation goes, have some pretty sour grapes with the origins of the PlayStation. So I don't know whether that'd be a factor in it or not, but I would probably see them more going with Microsoft. And in that case, I think that you're definitely right. I think that that company who partners with them would cannibalize the market. But I think that they would probably go multi-platform, and hopefully they'd still be a juggernaut, and they'd be able to still release these great games. The one advantage to them going third party, you'd assume, is that they don't have to release these pretty nothing games like Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, for example, which are just stopgaps to keep their system with some support while the other big games are being developed. They could develop only games that are, you know, games that we actually want to see. Big games like Legend of Zelda and mainline Mario Kart. You know, Mario Party would probably stay, stuff like that. The Donkey Kong games, stuff like that we'd definitely see. But we wouldn't see the other games which are pretty nothing, like the 2 Animal Crossing spin-offs that you're seeing right now. So that would be the only advantage I could actually see to them going third party from a consumer standpoint. Of course, there's also that thing that you'd only need to buy one console, but I think hopefully they don't get to that point where they're a third party. But if they did, then, you know, they'd probably go multi-platform, being PC, because that's going to be a big part of the market going forward, and then the 2 consoles. But that's, yeah.
With Maka here, I don't really believe Nintendo is in that bad of financial situation here. Really, like, if Nintendo, as what Maka already said, were to partner, would be with Microsoft. I would agree with that sentiment as well. But that's the thing with Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't even like Xbox anymore, and Sony is going downhill in financial terms. So really, if anything, I do want that 3-company system with the video game industry right now. It provides healthy competition, and if one of them falls down, I do fear there's going to be a lack of quality control in the gaming industry. And really, everybody's best interest is that Nintendo should succeed financially, in which they have been, at least for this year terms. And I do suspect they will succeed in the future, coming forward. So really, I do really wish them the best in that regard.
Awesome, guys. I think that's all for this time. Thank you so much for joining me, and if someone watching wanted to check out more stuff from you guys, where could they find you? What kind of content do you guys produce, and where can they subscribe to you at?
You go first, Andy.
And Productions channel. And yeah, and also there's like a lot of lag going on here.
My channel is NintendoBOX. On it, I just do news and my series Nintendo Know, which gives you kind of a brief look at a topic of Nintendo in the past, or maybe a game developer, something like that. And at the moment, I'm aiming for it to be a release every Sunday, so that's really exciting. So if you want to check that out, feel free to go and go on the channel NintendoBOX.
Hey everyone, welcome to the end of the video. I want to thank you all for watching it all the way through. This is the end slate, or the part of the video where I'm supposed to say something clever to convince you to subscribe or watch another one of my videos. So if you liked what you've seen here, then I have another top 10 video where I go over the top 5 lies that Nintendo has told their fans, which is interesting if you're into that sort of thing. And then if you're into Zelda or just Nintendo games in general, I have another awesome video that I'm really proud of, where I collaborated with Yuri of Wind, HMK, Macintyre Productions, and several others to come up with a Zelda theory on who built Hyrule. We all know Hyrule from the game's overworld. In most Zelda games, it's the world that you're in, and you never really stop and think who actually built all of this. So we worked together, Yuri of Wind, HMK, Macintyre Productions, and I, and we recorded this theory. I hope you guys like it. And last but not least, I want to take the time to thank my Patreons for actually making this video possible. If it wasn't for their support on patreon.com/GameOverChessy, then I wouldn't have really had the time to put forth to actually make this video. So thank you Alex Myers, Gus Calvo, Jonathan, The Itch Network, and Julio Rodriguez. Thank you all for your support and contributions on patreon.com. And if you would like to help support this channel as well, to help me create videos like this, or give me ideas, or even be in some of my videos, please head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse.